All right, gentlemen, we're ready to go. Welcome everyone to another New Jersey Constitutional Republicans virtual conversation. It's my great honor and privilege to have our two LD1 Assemblymen here with us today, Erik Kirk Simenson and General Antwan McClellan. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank
Good
you for
afternoon.
It's great to have you guys. Of course, last year at this time, gentlemen, you were busy campaigning. We ran a great campaign, team tested, led by our state senator. We talked about the Republican resurgence, which of course you guys were able to pull off and get elected. And of course, Antwan, you're the first Black American to represent LD1, and well, that's a tremendous accomplishment. And I just want to say, gentlemen, that today in 1862, Abraham Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation. And I know that we are all abolitionists. And I know especially Erik is a Frederick Douglass Republican, as we consider ourselves to be too, Antwan. But I want to thank you guys for joining us today. And just tell me for a moment, if you each would, with all that campaigning and the successful campaign and then getting into Trenton, what has surprised you the most about being an elected representative and assemblyman in New Jersey that you didn't expect a year ago from now?
Antwan?
what I didn't expect a year ago. Well, one, I didn't think it would be such a hard way to go for us real South Jersey elected officials down here up in Trenton. I thought it would be a bigger commitment to make sure that not only South Jersey is well taken care of, but all of New Jersey is well taken care of. And I think that was quite of a shock to me that South Jersey has definitely been forgotten down here, and what we do on an annual basis to contribute to the tax base here in this entire state of New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah, and I would have to. Yeah, I would say along the same lines as what Antwan's talking about, and the fact that when you get there, you ask a lot of good questions, which we have done, and other assembly men and women have from our side of the aisle, and you don't get any answers, and yet they ram this legislature through anyhow, and that's been the most eye-opening part of it, is that I'm more of a let's make sure it's right before we do something,
Right.
and you find out a quick for instance is they run a pilot program for something, and before the pilot program's finished, they already ram a bill through without even seeing what the outcome of the pilot program. And that pretty much sums up what Antwan and I, and I'm sure Senator Testa has dealt with also. So it's frustrating, but you have to stay the course and keep plugging, and you can't let it get to you. You just got to you got to keep doing what's right for the people that elected you.
Right. Of course, the New Jersey Constitutional Republicans, we often talk about how we need to bring the legislative branch, as well as the executive and the Supreme Court or the judicial branch, back to the Madisonian view of government, as opposed to the progressive and Wilsonian view that completely dominates these three branches. But the founders intended for you gentlemen as assemblymen to go into the State House to deliberate, to argue, to use rhetoric, to take your time. Of course, Erik, you're talking about bills getting ran through. Don't you think that it's important that we bring that back to where you're able to articulate an argument either for or against the bill? And how much does the leadership, whether it's the Republican leadership in the Assembly or of course the Democratic, it seems as though there's a concentration of, and everything goes back to what the leadership wants, as opposed to the actual representatives like yourselves from Cape May County and Cumberland County, who are intimately involved and know what the situations are down here. What do you think about that contrast?
Erik, you go first.
Well, I mean, I think what you're talking about is exactly what leads to the frustration is, I think people don't realize that's one of the things. And when we talk about, when you go up to Trenton and they don't realize what Cape May, Cumberland, Atlantic County are like, because it really is totally different. You know, you have Cumberland County, which is very rural, and you know, Cape May County and Atlantic County, we have our tourism and we have the beach side of the state. We also have the bay side of the state and everything in between. And like Antwan had touched on before, I mean, you know, the amount of tourism dollars that go to fund the whole state, and yet we get, you know, and I know Senator Testa loves to use when I came up with, you know, we love living in this state, obviously, but you know, we're tired of, we love living at the bottom of the state, but we're tired of being the bottom of the barrel. And that's kind of the way we feel when we go up there. It's kind of like we get overlooked and over, you know, passed over on a lot of these issues. And obviously the senator has done a great job at making his voice known, so to speak. And we are doing the same in the assembly, because otherwise, you know, there wasn't a loud voice there before. I mean, once Senator Van Drew left to be the congressman, even though he was, you know, a Democrat, he did stick up for us in our area, regardless of party. And you know, he knew how to do it, and it was kind of, we didn't have a voice for a while, and I think it's time that, you know, we're starting to show people that we do have a voice, and that, you know, the real South Jersey is as important as any other part of the state.
I agree with I agree with them wholeheartedly. It's amazing that you know, you can go up and we make our 2-hour drive up there, and you know, or now with Zoom committees and things of that nature, and you have legislation that Erik and I and Senator Testa, we have to fight to get things passed through. So, and you know, especially Erik and I, we've learned, you know, from our council days and Erik being mayor, that you have to talk to everybody that's going to be voting, and you talk to them, and,
right.
and you represent, you know, what you're trying to achieve by bringing something forward. That conversation doesn't happen. You know, if somebody's bringing something forward on the Democratic side, then you know, it's pretty much going to put, you know, 95% of the chance is going to go through. Somebody's bringing something on the Republican side, we have to make sure that we talk to everybody to make sure that things go through. We have to reach out to folks and talk to them, and like, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is what we think. What do you think about that? And can we bring this forward? And that's what we're stuck with at this point in time.
Now, are you gentlemen able to stand on the assembly floor and to make your arguments about the proposed legislation?
Yes, we are. You know, it usually falls on deaf ears, but at least you can state your case, and you know, it's on the record at least. And I know Antwan and I joke about it, but it's really not funny, but it is. And that's Assemblyman Bergen, who was sworn in with us. He's a new assemblyman, West Point grad. He loves to get up there and state his case, and he's great at it, and he's doing a heck of a job. But you know, we joke around and say, be like Bergen, because he just doesn't care. He's gonna speak his mind, and that's what we're all trying to do. Even though, you know, it's like Antwan said, on the other side, they just push these things through that it's almost like no, and I shouldn't say all of them, but there are bills that tend to look like there's been not a whole lot of thought put into them. And, you know, because they have a huge majority, they're going to put it through. Whereas, like he said, we have to work tirelessly to get ours passed, and, you know, call other assembly people from the other side of the aisle, and really, even at a point where we have to take our name off as the lead sponsor just to get the bill passed, because and at the end of the day, it's all about the people that we represent. We want to get them taken care of. And, you know, neither one of us are in it for our name at the top of the bill. If we can get it passed, you know, but sometimes they've done that too, where, you know, they have to put a Democrat at the top as the primary sponsor. And you kind of have to swallow that and move on if you want it passed.
Right. Antwan, you'd like to add to that, or?
No, I mean, Erik, that's what I was going to say. You know, Erik and I both, Erik initially with his name being taken off the top, and then me just most recently with my name being taken off the top, because they want their name on the top of the bill, which is it shouldn't be about credit. It should be about doing good for your constituents and doing good for this state. And and we've learned that more people are interested in credit than they are in actually just doing good work.
Right. Now, gentlemen, of course, you probably couldn't have picked a year to be more, a year that has been more historically convoluted and just a real mess, if you will, with the outbreak of what I call the Chinese virus and the effect that it has had on the state of New Jersey. And you certainly, as Republican representatives, you're clearly understanding what it's like to be ruled by the tyranny of the majority, with the Democratic governor and the Democratic Assembly and the Democratic Senate. But it's truly remarkable. And please speak to the idea, number one, that these all-encompassing lockdown rules have had such a detrimental effect to LD1 because of the tourist business, which couldn't get off to the right track, and what you've been able to do to try to help facilitate what we challenge, gentlemen. We challenge executive orders and their constitutionality. If you look at Article 5 of the New Jersey Constitution, there's nothing about executive orders. And to be honest, there's nothing in the federal Constitution either. And we've seen that Murphy has used a couple of pieces of legislation, the Disaster Recovery Act and the Emergency Powers Act, to substantiate him being able to do all of these infringements on civil liberties in the name of public health. So talk to us about the impact that this has all had for LD1 and what you've been able to do to try to help facilitate or to bring back some real justice to our people here in LD1.
That's the most disappointing thing is that, obviously, JR, you're from out in the Cumberland County area. I'm from
Right.
Cape May. So if I'm coming out to Cumberland County or have some opinions on things, I'm going to ask somebody that's from there and not just, say and do things that don't affect that I won't know about. So Erik is from Lower Township. I'm going to ask him about Lower Township and get his opinion because he was born and raised there, just like I would expect him to do that about Ocean City. So when you have people that live and work in an area, you're supposed to get their opinion. And as an elected official, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to seek the opinions of people. I can't tell you how the Cedar Rose Winery should be working because I have no idea. But I can ask you how that's going to work and things or what I can do to help you. I shouldn't be opposing that you need to do this, that, and the other thing on your area, and I don't know have any idea how that works. And that's been the most disappointing thing, is that this governor has no idea how certain things work. And I'll stretch to say that this might be the first summer since he's been elected that he spent in the state of New Jersey, and it's only because of the pandemic. So if Cape May County developed one of the best plans in this state has ever seen, and he took it and just tossed it, and didn't even think about it and could care less about it, and other counties and municipalities that try to adopt that plan too, and he just didn't pay it any attention. When you have people that work and live and are born and raised in areas and have these businesses, you need to take their opinions and value their opinions, and not think that you know all and you can demand what somebody else does because of your situation, and then expect to borrow your way out of the situation that you caused, which is the most heinous thing at all. You can't borrow your way out of debt. It just doesn't make any sense.
Good question.
Erik? Yeah, well, I'll say I'm just glad we ran last year.
Yeah.
Dude, oh boy, it's going to be a train wreck in come November. So that's the first thing, and everything Antwan said. I mean, you gotta keep educating yourself, and you can do that by the people that know better. You need to delegate your responsibilities, and you need to reach out to people. If you don't know it, there are people that do know it, and it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask, and that's what we've both done. I know Michael's done that as well. And back to the governor, I mean, those executive powers, and I know you know this, JR, but for the people that don't know, I mean, that whole unlimited executive power was passed for purposes of World War II, and was never changed back to the 14 or 15 days, whatever it was, We've tried to do that. I know Minority Leader Bramnick has put forth a bill, and they tabled it and voted no on it before I could blink my eyes or take a breath. But it only makes sense after the first 15 days, then go to the legislature, which in their case they have the majority anyway. So it really wouldn't matter technically. I mean, they could keep extending it, but the fact that it's never been reset back to where it should be, it's disturbing.
The executive order for Superstorm Sandy is still in effect. So that executive order is still in effect at this point in time. And Superstorm Sandy was in 2012.
Yeah. So then obviously we could challenge the constitutionality of this because, again, we don't read that language in the Constitution. What we do read right in the very first section is that all people are independent and have certain natural and unalienable rights, among these which are enjoying and defending life, liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property. Now, all of Murphy's lockdown orders had severely affected the people's rights, unalienable rights of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, with losing their business and losing income, which is property. Now, don't you think, gentlemen, that it's important that we clearly differentiate and we create legislation that would prevent this sort of tyranny? I mean, we haven't had this much tyranny, gentlemen, in the state of New Jersey since King George III was around. And we need to put the restrictions on this man, and he needs to be able to use the legislative body, of course, which you're part of, and also the court would also let us down by punting the football and not evaluating the borrowing scheme in lieu of the Constitution, but deferring to Murphy and the legislators. Don't you think that we need to make sure that we need to pass legislation that would prevent this sort of tyranny from happening again?
Yeah, absolutely. And the balance, you need some balance. And it's, unfortunately, the majority does not see that. And it's because, and we see it at the national level on both sides. It's just, partisan politics. And any person with common sense would say, yeah, that makes sense. Let the governor go to the legislature and get, get their opinion on whether,
Right.
he should be able to extend that power. And, they're not going to do that. They're not going to, we've tried to do that. We've tried to reel it in. I know obviously Senator Testa's been involved, and geez, I lost count of how many lawsuits now, but he keeps working towards that. And, it is what it is at this point. And that's why I can't stress enough that, the upcoming election and every election after this is, we got to keep chipping away at seats as far as the Republicans go.
Yep.
And listen, we got to make sure that, and if we were in power, we would like to think that we wouldn't be that way. We have to remember this, because eventually I believe that while Antwan and I are still around, involved, that we'll be able to turn the tides. We've already done it somewhat. And remember how it was when it was so one-sided like this, because good things aren't happening.
Yeah. The amazing thing is, and don't get me wrong, is, when this first started happening, Mark, for 60 days, maybe 45 days, the governor was probably dead on when you shut stuff down and give us opportunity to see what we're dealing with. All great and well, but now at this point, you have to let people live. You have to understand that this is a 99% survival rate at this point in time. So you can't continue to shut things down and not listen. And last time I checked, I think there was 180 elected officials throughout this state, and the state legislature that value, their constituents in those areas. And he's the one person that's making the decision for 180 and not giving them any consideration. And I think that's just, we're not born that way. This is not how this state and how this country should be run, is that one person is dictating for 180 people that represent constituents. And, that's not what it should be about.
That's why we have the separation of powers in the three legislative branches. And also, gentlemen, we could talk for hours on all of the mistakes and the fumbling of the football, if you will, with Murphy. whether it's having infected people sent to convalescent centers, whether it's only opening up certain big box store businesses, but yet keeping small businesses down, and of course imposing rules up in Passaic and Union County and some of the more Middlesex County that are equitable with what was imposed upon us down here in Cape May County and Cumberland County, which are totally different geographical areas and demographically as well. And really, it's an abysmal performance by the governor in this respect. And I want to compliment both of you gentlemen for being really restoring initial Republican principles. And the one thing that we need to get that message out to our citizens is that as Republicans, Kurt and Antwan, you are representing all of the people of LD1. You're not just representing the teachers union and the public unions, special interest groups, which the Democrats thrive on, depend upon to stay in power. Whereas Republicans, we represent the private sector, and we can represent the labor unions in a good way because the businesses that they work for will benefit from Republican policies. But we represent the middle class, and I really want to commend both of you gentlemen for really bringing that idea of equality of opportunity, equal protection of the law, diehard Republican principles within the party and within legislative government in New Jersey. So I thank you for that.
God, family, and country, man.
Absolutely.
In that order too, right?
I know there's people will be mad at me for saying that, I'm sure. Some.
They won't be mad on a New Jersey Constitutional Republican virtual conversation.
We're not ashamed of saying that either. So
that's for certain.
Right. That's exactly right. But again, you gentlemen will keep up the good work, I'm sure. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we end the broadcast today, gentlemen? And I thank you for joining me again.
I just like to say, I realize this whole voting fiasco
Right.
is going to be interesting, but don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Fill out your ballot and get it in as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last minute. We want our votes counted early. And unfortunately, this is where we're at, and we have to make the best of it. And we need to vote red. And just God bless everybody.
And to follow up, it's amazing how people have the ability to adapt to certain things in certain situations as you go about. And when you take that right from people and you force them to do certain things a certain way, it's not good, and it's not the way we should be living. We should, set some rules in place, talk to some people, allow us to adapt. We'll adapt, and we'll do it the right way. And just allow us to do that. And as elected officials, that's what we're supposed to be doing, and keeping everybody's best interests at mind. Everybody's not going to agree 100%, but you got to take everybody's opinion and listen to, because somebody may have something good or quality to say. Just because they're Republican or a Democrat or what, I'm going to listen to you. I don't necessarily have to agree. We can come to a compromise. And I think that's what's missing right now at this point in time in this state. And we need to make sure we get back to that. And JR, thank you very much for having us. It's a great pleasure, always a great pleasure to speak with you. And hopefully we can get together and break bread and have a glass of wine pretty soon, or even ride the bikes on the boardwalk in Ocean City.
Well,
So,
we're gonna come down, Antwan, and we're gonna ride bikes on the boardwalk, and we're gonna go to Preps, and we might go to Mac and Max. We're gonna go to Shriver's and get saltwater taffy. Barbara and I are ready for that.
Get some
I was
Johnson.
talking to Erik before, and him and I are gonna get together. We're gonna do some duets. We're gonna do some Costellos, some Sweet.
Jam sections. Yeah.
We're gonna do some Graham Parker and the Rumor.
Yep.
Him and I would have been two blood brothers back in the early 80s, Antwan. And
That's awesome.
I've still got the same hair, man. So,
you look great. I got pretty much a lot of it too. I did get my
I could
shower
spike it up a little more probably, but
a little Sid Vicious action going, right?
Yeah.
But listen, gentlemen, it's truly great to have you, and it's great to know that as Assemblymen that you believe in the very first words of our Constitution, the New Jersey Constitution, which state all persons are by nature free and independent. And unfortunately, Governor Murphy doesn't know that or understand that. And he is a product of course, of the great progressive movement that was led by Woodrow Wilson and really really came into fruition under FDR. Has really been the model for the overreach of executive powers. But it's good to know, gentlemen, that both of you are going to be working hard once this pandemic is over to make sure that these sort of infringements on the civil liberties of New Jersey citizens never happen again. So I thank you for that.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
All right, gentlemen, keep listening to the good music, and we'll be down to eat pizza with you, Antwan, and hopefully you guys will come on again soon and give us another update. Again, thank you so much for what you're doing. And today we remember in 1862 the announcement of the Emancipation Proclamation, the result of the Battle of Antietam. And of course, it became into law on January the 1st, 1863. But just allow me to say, for Frederick Douglass Republicans, Antwan McClellan and Erik Simenson, this is J.R. Carmen. And remember what Lincoln said: liberty for all.
Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Amen. God bless.
Anytime.
Have a good night. Thank you very much for joining me.
Take care.
Here.